our guest, Eddie Murphy. Thank you. Looking good, Billy Ray! Feeling good, Lewis.
Actor, comedian, superstar. Eddie Murphy is the epitome of raw success as a comic, creating a roar of laughter when on stage or screen.
I like the movie and the people like the movie, and I don't sweat that, when it's time, it's time. When they decide when.
Eddie Murphy was the preeminent black comic of his era. In fact, he was arguably the preeminent comic of the 1980s period. At his peak, no other performer, regardless of race, was a bigger star or more audacious talent.
He's not just the greatest African-American comedian of his era. He is the greatest comedian of his era.
By combining Richard Pryor's razor-sharp observations and live obscenities with Bill Cosby's undeniable mainstream appeal, Murphy quickly jumped from clubs to television to film. He even gained fame as a serious pop singer to become the world's most widely popular comedian, a hilarious triple threat.
I don't know yet because I haven't done it yet, so I don't want it to come out real messed up and then you'll say, "Oh, he's an idiot." So let's wait and see how it turns out,
Eddie Murphy was born in Brooklyn in 1961 and grew up in the New York suburb of Roosevelt Island. After his father died when Murphy was a child, the young actor was raised by his mother, Lillian Murphy, a telephone company employee, and stepfather, Vernon Lynch, who worked in an ice cream factory.
Eddie has said himself that he was just always funny. He grew up funny. He always had a great sense of humor. If you look back at Eddie's childhood, he had a relatively stable family life despite his parents' divorce when he was young. However, when his mother was ill for an extended time, he was actually in foster care for a short while. I don't know to what extent in the foster care system had on his lifelong ability to make people laugh. But certainly, that very difficult time must have been part of why he so honed and sharpened his skills at making people like him and making people laugh.
During their time in foster care, they watched a lot of TV. That was their main friend, if you would, an entertainer. And Murphy always said that that's where he really kind of picked up on doing impersonations and voices, that those skills came from those really, really early years and formative time period, spending so much time mimicking other people.
I'm gonna keep this one. My mother I used to, when I was younger, if I would win something, I would just give it to my mother. Now my mother had all my stuff, and it's been so long since I won something. I think I'm gonna keep this one, so I have one.
His comic talent was evident from an early age, and by 15, he was writing and performing his own routines at local venues. Discovering his ability to make people laugh, the young Murphy got voted most popular boy in school after he began flexing his joke-telling skills.
My parents used to say, get into your books and stay in your books, and show business is too sometimey, and teachers thought my teachers thought I was crazy. They just thought I was a disruptive kid in class. I didn't get that much encouragement, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I did, and I put all my energies into it.
He always had a gift. He is a natural comedian. You read about other comics who are these kind of tortured geniuses, or they really study comedy. They are almost scientific in their approach. But Eddie Murphy makes it look easy because for him, it really was natural. Eddie has said himself that the way that he would get his material was just hanging out with people, and he would say something really funny, and they would laugh, and he would think, okay, I can put that in my show, and he would go and write it down. His comedy was born of just his own natural insights and response to things.
No, I was a very mediocre student. It was because I wasn't there half the time, because I started performing when I was 15 years old. And I'd be in nightclubs and bars till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. When it was time to go to class, Murph was asleep.
Clever one-liners and a mean impression of Bugs Bunny and Jerry Lewis were just part of his repertoire.
Things are happening quicker for me. I haven't had to do the paying dues thing that you have to do when you get in show business, like go work a club for 10 years and go do bit movie parts for 5 years, and then finally get your shot after you've been doing it for 20 years. And then you become this bitter performer. I had to stop drinking soda when I do interviews. Anyway, it will be it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years.
Eddie had it all. He was as gifted as Steve Martin say in his impressions, but he was also able to do kind of mainstream humor in a way that you kind of felt like you knew him.
In popular culture, Eddie Murphy is heralded as a superstar talent, having played key roles in some of the best films of the 90s and early 2000s.
Eddie Murphy is one of the most important comics, really, of all time, and definitely of the 1980s. In fact, he's one of the 10 highest paid actors of all time.
Eddie Murphy is known for having 2 of the most commercially successful stand-up specials in the history of show business. Those 2 specials, in 1983 and 1987, were also the only 2 comedy specials he ever shot.
It would be a disservice to call Eddie Murphy the greatest African-American comedian of the 80s, because he's not just the greatest African-American comedian of his era. He is the greatest comedian of his era.
In 1983, Murphy released Delirious, a 70-minute tour de force showcasing the raw talent he had developed in the storied New York comedy scene of the 70s and early 80s. In the special, released 36 years ago, he juggles complex stories about his childhood, the ice cream trucks he and his friends would chase on hot summer days, the games he and his brother would play with their G.I. Joe while they bathed. His jokes about his life were masterpieces, and you felt like you were in his home with him as he painted the picture of his morbidly obese Aunt Bunny falling down the stairs, praying to God the whole way down.
My Aunt Bunny got a mustache and shit. You know, one of them lady mustaches? It was real cool back when she was 20. She had, you know, ladies had them little thin ones and shit. Then when they get about 45, like Aunt Bunny, they be having the Billy D. Williams look. Shit be thicker than a man's and shit. Aunt Bunny weighed like 300 pounds, like 250, real heavy lady and shit. And the kids was scared of her. You got that kid logic going. I remember Aunt Bunny come by the house and shit. It was like, I was petrified because she always wanted.
Watching this special, it's not hard to imagine where some of today's best acts drew inspiration for their onstage personas. Charismatic, controversial, and successful, Eddie Murphy was a commercial hit. He became the king of comedy in the 80s and shot his second special, Raw, which grossed nearly $51 million, cementing Murphy as an act that could break the bank by exhilarating crowds with his raw ability and cringe-worthy jokes. To this day, no other special has made as much at the box office. The second highest grossing stand-up comedy special was Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip.
When I first came out, you know, I borrowed Richard's form. You know, I was like Richard was, and then you come into your own. You know, if you're really serious about it. If you're really a student, you know, you take what you learn and you build something with it. You don't just take what you learn and you're like a parrot and just do the other person's stuff.
But in the act of show business that shocked studios and audiences everywhere, Murphy took a step away from comedy, never to return for a full-length special again. After a stint working as a stand-up comedian in the same club as Robin Williams and Whoopi Goldberg, Murphy got his big break on the U.S. comedy show Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live has been home to many talented stars over the decades. From Bill Murray and Julia Louis-Dreyfus to Maya Rudolph and Will Ferrell, some of comedy's most prominent names started on the hit sketch show.
It's not like too fast, but it's like it's happening fast. And you have to sit back and watch. I'm a real level-headed guy. You ain't gonna like open up the paper and see Eddie Murphy mess himself up or anything like that. But it happens fast, and it's hard to deal with it. And you go through ego troubles. Like sometimes your ego gets because people are always going like this. You're great, Ed. You start saying, hey, I am great. And you start believing it. And your ego gets messed up, and then you're depressed over little things, and you have ups and downs. But it's hard to deal with. Yeah.
What's interesting also about Murphy is that virtually every comic since says he or she was influenced by Eddie Murphy in a significant way. I can't tell you how many legendary comics like Chris Rock or Tracy Morgan have said that Eddie Murphy is their absolute hero.
Of course, Eddie Murphy is one of the most iconic performers ever to grace the stage at Studio 8H. He first jumped on the scene in 1980. Murphy had several great moments on the show, but one in particular solidified him as a star. Veteran SNL writer David Sheffield recently recalled Murphy's rise to prominence on the show. The comedy scribe remembered, in the panned-in search of the Negro Republican sketch. While the young and quiet Murphy didn't get to do much in his debut, Sheffield and fellow writer Barry W. Blaustein would later get a taste of his talents on a separate occasion. Murphy's excellent riffing would ultimately lead him, Sheffield, and Blaustein to utilize the character of Raheem Abdul Muhammad only a few weeks after the initial sketch. And Sheffield admitted that the ultimate result was the moment that genuinely made Murphy a star.
I think the big part of it is that he refused to take no for an answer. Eddie Murphy has a great line about him. He says, he was a loser who refused to lose. So no matter what happened, he would get back up. He wouldn't accept a closed door. I think that's why over the years his movies have become more and more popular and more important than even what they were back then, because you can't take your eyes off of him. What he's doing is so crazy.
All the rest of the cast members were so damn nervous and afraid of making a mistake, Murphy sat down, stared at the camera, and was so cool and so calm. He was just a natural.
I think they're real insecure with themselves, most comics, and hide behind it. And they're so serious because they're insecure. Like I'm a very materialistic person. Like I like to buy cars and clothes and jewelry, and I think that's a sign of insecurity. And I'm serious because I'm so insecure, and I hide behind my comedy.
As many would say, the rest is history. Eddie Murphy played several iconic characters during his SNL tenure, like the impoverished Mr. Robinson, a hilariously arrogant version of Gumby, and slick salesman Velvet Jones.
Let me see who's at the door.
Murphy would come under fire for people saying that he was really leaning into these black stereotypes. But one thing he would always say is, these are just outrageous, wide brushstroke characters. How could anyone ever think that this was an actual person? These are just, it's funny. It's way too far off of any real person to be close to the bone or anything controversial.
Well, first of all, I think Eddie understood his comedy, and Eddie understood that his particular brand of comedy was something that is not necessarily for everyone, but the people who love it with all their heart. He's obviously one of the best entertainers of our age, and it's really great to not only see him be funny, but I think Eddie has an incredibly moving, subtle performance in this as well.
Murphy's presence on SNL was pivotal, as the show struggled in the early 80s. This was primarily due to the departure of the original cast. Thankfully, the comedic work of Murphy and co-star Joe Piscopo helped the series bounce back.
There's a great story that Joe Piscopo tells. He was the guy on Saturday Night Live that mostly was paired with Eddie. And on the very first Weekend Update they ever did together, when Eddie was like 19 years old and was becoming a fast rising star on Saturday Night Live, just before they went on to air, Eddie whispered under his breath, "If the kids at Roosevelt High School could see me now." And he was just out of high school. I think sometimes people forget how young he was when he became a global superstar.
With this, it was somewhat poetic that the show also found itself in a bit of a slump before Murphy made his long-awaited return to host in 2019. Not only did his Christmas episode garner some of the show's highest ratings, but it also earned the comic his first Emmy Award.
There are a lot of restrictions on the show. I'm leaving the show in May because it doesn't have much to do with personalities. It's just the simple fact that there are restrictions and there's not much you can do on television. My idea of what's funny, I can't project it the right way on television. It's like the censors won't let me do a lot of things I think is funny, so I have to do movies.
Mm-hmm. Eddie Murphy single-handedly revived Saturday Night Live. For 5 years, when Eddie Murphy was on the show, he was the reason, basically, that the show was successful and even stayed on the air. Eddie had the observational sharpness of Richard Pryor, but he also had the kind of mainstream appeal of a Bill Cosby or a Jerry Seinfeld.
I just know I'm glad some of us are going up. So usually I don't watch. It's like a game. If none of us playing, I ain't watching. So now, I want Eddie. You know what? I want Eddie to take something because Eddie's been, for comics, because comics, especially a black comic, hardly ever gets a chance. Eddie's been around longer than any of us. Eddie set the standard. Eddie was the first one doing what we all wanted to do. So I hope Eddie takes something. I hope he takes something, man. Yeah.
SNL may have given Murphy his first real jolt of exposure, but the show owes him a bit of gratitude as well. The chances of Murphy returning to host again are probably slim, but it would be great to see him back on stage at some point in the future.
Like now, it's like all with the movie and Saturday Night Live, and people going, "Oh, it was so great," and Paramount saying, "Here's some more money for you," and people saying, "You want to do something for us? We have money," and everybody's going crazy, and it's real scary because it does literally happen overnight. It's 2.5 years ago. I was in a basketball court in Roosevelt Park playing with my buddies and doing stand-up comedy and making $150 a week and content and happy, and I was 19 years old. I was happy. And now, don't get me wrong, I want everything that's happening to me to happen, but it's sometimes that you have to sit back and catch up with everything that's going on around you, and it's real scary.
In 1984, Murphy was really too big to stay on Saturday Night Live. He had become a box office sensation. With 48 Hours, he had launched himself into superstardom. He was really too big to be a part of a team on a show. And so I think, he and the producers kind of mutually understood, number one, they could no longer afford him, but also he was destined for bigger things.
Murphy's early roles in films were the prototype of the hip, irreverent, awkward character for black comedic actors.
I learned to not do garbage movies. I wouldn't do a wild, zany, crazy, wacky, zany movie. I wouldn't do that. Because like most of the guys from the old show are like ultra talented. Then we got John Landis, who's directing this next movie I did, said the thing about Belushi was that you never saw Belushi at his best, and the man was brilliant. And you were seeing him do things that it was like he'd do like this, and he'd say, "Oh, it's brilliant." You never saw Belushi at his best, It's like I want people to see me at my best.
In the mid-'80s, Eddie Murphy was transitioning from a comedian on a TV show to a global box office superstar. We saw this with Beverly Hills Cop, and of course with Coming to America. These movies grossed incredible amounts of money, and his enormous salaries were getting bigger and bigger, and were certainly justified for his ability to appeal to every color and creed and age. He was universally funny.
One could argue that Will Smith's comedic roles, especially in the early seasons of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, were a hip-hop 90s version of the type of characters Murphy portrayed early in his career. Eddie Murphy was always the guy who didn't quite belong but was comfortable in his skin and always found a way out of trouble.
Please hold your applause. Hold your applause, please. First of all, we did Tower Heist about 3 years ago, sir, and it was a tremendous flop. But our hearts were in the right place, and we got to work with Precious. But I don't have as much as everyone else have. They have all this stuff. I've only done one movie with Brett, but Brett has been a friend of mine for many. He's actually the only director I've ever become friends with in 40 movies. Usually you make a movie and you never see the person again, but Brett actually became a friend. And you directed a flop, and we're still friends. Because usually when you see the people you was in the flop with, you just turn around and you don't never want to look at the motherfuckers. But Brett, we vacation together. I talked to him on the phone. He's one of my dearest friends, Brett is.
I had 2 or 3 times on the set where I was like, technically this is a stunt. It's a stunt dude over there. Brett will have you doing stuff where after you do it, you'll be like, hey, that was a stunt. I shouldn't have been doing it.
Yeah. He wanted to get real reactions out of us, which probably was good for the movie.
Not only is Will Smith a direct comedic descendant of the Murphy legacy, but one could look at Martin Lawrence's career, Chris Tucker's films, and Kevin Hart's roles, and you will see Murphy's influence there.
And we're also trying to figure out who is funnier, Eddie Murphy or Ben Stiller. Who do you think?
No, I'm kidding. It's just me. It's not a race, which is nice. Everyone really is funny in their own way, amazingly talented way. And it's not a race and it's not a competition. And that's what's so great about it. We were all teammates.
When Eddie Murphy was honored with the Mark Twain Award in 2017, it's really incredible to see how many legendary comics got up and said that Eddie Murphy was their inspiration for everything. In fact, Tracy Morgan, a really famous and award-winning comic, said that after his car accident, Eddie Murphy was the first person who made him laugh. Other comics have said that Murphy is the reason they got into the business. They inspired him that they could do anything, especially African-American comics, male comics.
During the early 80s, when Murphy rose to prominence, there were not a lot of black comedians or comedy actors who got to be the hero, which might sound pretty ordinary and unremarkable today.
I was really literally psyched out that maybe because I had a happy childhood and because I had a wonderful life and I felt I was blessed, I might not make it. I didn't have what it takes to make it. My mother wasn't a madam, and my grandmother wasn't a prostitute, and I was scared. And then Eddie comes along, and his biggest bit is about his dad, who was drinking or something. And I'm like, for a long time, I felt real strange about myself, and that I didn't fit into this business.
Black actors usually played the best friend or the comedic sidekick, but never the hero. On top of that, how many black comedic actors at that time got to play multi-dimensional roles like being bold, funny, brash, cool, slightly vulgar at the same time? Not a lot. In many ways, Eddie Murphy is one of the first of his kind of actors in Hollywood. As his star began to rise on SNL, the film offers came in for Murphy. In 1983, Murphy starred in the classic comedy Trading Places.
I'm never gonna do a serious movie or anything like that, and I'll never do like an idiot movie where I'm like this real bigger than life jerk character, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe. Do you think I was cool in Trading Places? Yeah, maybe pretty cool. Well, I guess so. Maybe. I don't know.
Real giving, real patient. Sits real quietly when he's not working. He's actually quite shy when he's not doing it. He comes out with little zingers once in a while, but he's really quite shy. I don't know. I think the fact that he is young and he is, in a way, vulnerable like that, I think he's great.
Starring opposite another SNL alum, Dan Aykroyd, Murphy played Billy Ray Valentine, a con man who finds himself in the middle of a social experiment conducted by two shady wealthy brothers. It was in Trading Places that Murphy proved his worth as a film actor. It was only his second role on film, and he played it to perfection.
I hadn't been in a great movie, so I didn't have anything to really live up to. I think when Eddie Murphy directed, he had all these great movies that he had to live up to. It's like, man, is it gonna be as good as Trading Places or Beverly Hills Cop? I did not have that problem. I had people going, well, it's gotta be better than Pootie Tang,
Sorry about that, man. Help! I don't want your bag, man.
He's getting away! I'll bet that man could run our company as well as Winthorpe.
This is outrageous. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not a thief.
We want to help you, Mr. Valentine, with a home of your own.
And that was a fake, right?
We paid $35,000 for it, and employment with our company.
What's going to happen to me?
The success of Trading Places and 48 Hours gave him a lot of confidence to feel like he could command more money. 48 Hours, for example, grossed over $5 million in the first week alone, which is a huge take at the time. And from this, he was able to sign a contract with Paramount Pictures saying that he would do 6 pictures for $25 million. And this is in the mid-1980s, you have to remember. That was a lot of money, especially for a 23-year-old.
Reteaming with Trading Places director John Landis, Murphy's last great film of the 1980s has aged like fine wine.
I've known John for 14 years. It's 1 week out of a relationship, and then there was a lot of press because the movie got sued, and we supposedly were fighting, and then you get microphones in your face, and you say something, and it just gets, you carry your baggage with you. That's the paradox, being in this business. Any button that you press, people carry that with them forever. There's still people that, bad and good things, the people that come up to me from Saturday night, from things I did on Saturday Night Live, it's, hey, and I haven't been that guy in 10 years, and I haven't been a guy in Delirious in 8 years. And that fight with Landis was 6 years ago, it's been over, but, that's still on the table.
Murphy plays a rich African prince who goes to America to find a bride in Queens. With Arsenio Hall as his manservant and comical foil, Murphy mixes heart and hilarity with effortless ease.
We have the same manager, and I was still working on The Late Show, and he called me and said, remember that idea I had 2 years ago? And I said, which one? Because Eddie has a new idea every day to do something. And he said, The Quest, which was the original working title that he had chosen. And I said, oh yeah, the prince who comes. He says, yeah, he said, we should do that movie. I said, wow. I said, is it written? And he said, no, we have to write it too. And I'm like, wow, because I remember the idea, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, each of us play 4 different people, and I'm thinking all these things. I said, well, I thought about it, and I said, well, I'm finished with The Late Show in like 5 or 6 more weeks or whatever, and everything seemed to come together. When it's right, it's right. When it's supposed to be, it's like a puzzle from heaven. It all comes together. Paramount about that time had come to see me at The Late Show because they kind of didn't know who I was, and it was weird because I was on Solid Gold also. I was Marilyn McCoo's sidekick when she came back to the show. And I was at Paramount, and let's go. But they didn't know me as an actor, so they wanted to just come watch me. And they watched me with Little Richard, Emma Samms, Magic Johnson, that I had them on. And I think the next day my manager went to work, and before I knew it, I had a holding deal or a development deal, a 3-picture deal with Paramount, and an okay to do the first film with Eddie. It's strange, it just all fell together.
Yeah.
He and Hall also don a series of brilliantly ridiculous makeup guises to moonlight as the regulars at a local barbershop, a gag that Murphy would soon return to in The Nutty Professor.
Eddie Murphy has said he doesn't want to pick a favorite film, but if he had to pick one film that kind of summarizes who he is, it's The Nutty Professor. I think he said that he's most proud of what he accomplished in that movie with so many characters, so much time in the makeup chair, but being able to kind of transform himself into men and women and all kinds of different characters. He feels that that was kind of the pinnacle of what he's able to do. And of course, The Nutty Professor won all kinds of awards and acclaim. But I think if you had to pick a film that really summarizes what Eddie Murphy does best, in Eddie Murphy's opinion, and I think for many others, it would be The Nutty Professor.
Talking about a high degree of difficulty, for most comic actors, remaking Jerry Lewis's most famous movie comedy would be a fool's errand. But Murphy turns Lewis's tale about a nerdy scientist who swallows a potion that transforms him into a Casanova named Buddy Love into a showcase for his own talents. Murphy's broad grin and popping eyes made his characterization border on caricature, but moviegoers loved his assertiveness, bodacious confidence, and refusal to be racially submissive. These characteristics added a different dimension to his every character. His appeal is in his brash confidence, adding a new kind of twist to the formulaic, old-styled Hollywood films he has been in. He showed that actors could reinvent themselves. Interestingly, Murphy didn't have a significant romantic love interest in most of his movies, but his appeal is enough to thrust him into the superstar category. While it seemed like he settled into a career in broad comedic roles, he released a film that displayed the full potential of his charisma as a romantic leading man. And the way his new persona was received might be the key to understanding the subsequent arc of his career.
Yeah, I look at show business as and show business used to be my life, you know, and I used to be in danger of any of the temptations that show business have to offer you, you know. But I fell in love with a good woman, and I got a great home life and great kids, you know. So show business is and you know, it's really cool. It worked out just as I turned 30. I'm 33 now. Just around that time, you know, show business got old right around the same time as I did. You know, that's what it was like. It was like, yeah, I had my parties and I had my fun and I did all that other stuff. And now it's a different kind of fun. Now it's, you know, I'm living my life again, and I'm seeing I'm connected. It's like when you have kids, with me, it gave me insight to my parents, and it made me start like you're living your childhood over again because you see your kids, you know. So that's where I'm at now.
The only reason to make the movie is if it's going to be Eddie. Yeah. And so when we were writing every day, we just kept giggling, and we would put in jokes that we knew only Eddie's going to get. It was just like real inside baseball stuff.
Also, I think we had both admired Eddie's talents and think he's one of the great movie stars of all time. We've worked on lots and lots of movies and TV shows. We've never had one where just literally every time we hit the red carpet, every time we go somewhere, every time we go to show up on the set, it's like oh my God, I'm having such a great time. I really love these people.
Murphy's stock took a nosedive in the 90s, but he found an unlikely new outlet in family comedies.
The way that Eddie came back is through family movies, which may seem strange after having been the subject of these kinds of rumors, but actually it was a really savvy, smart direction. Eddie Murphy really single-handedly, in my opinion, transformed the comedy of animated films.
While a lot of his kids' films have been missteps, Dr. Dolittle showed Murphy's sweet side at its best, playing a straight-laced surgeon who starts getting manic when he wakes up understanding the barks and grunts of wild animals. Written off as a lightweight at the time, it's now a bank holiday classic that stands up far better than The Nutty Professor.
Eddie Murphy is a big movie star. He has transcended that definition by his career achievements. Eddie is one actor who has uniquely brought financial success to every movie he has ever made. Eddie Murphy is known as an actor who uses his artistic genius to catalyze joy and laughter in people throughout the world. Having made two movies with Eddie Murphy, Boomerang and now The Nutty Professor, I know Eddie as an honorable and professional writer, producer, and actor. I also know him as a dedicated father, family man, and husband. I'm so proud to share this moment with Eddie and his family. Congratulations.
Eddie Murphy kind of came back with family movies in the 90s, and he started out kind of animated, and then of course we saw the pinnacle, which was The Nutty Professor. In The Nutty Professor, Eddie was trying to figure out how to remake this great movie, of course, with Jerry Lewis, and they were trying to think about, it was actually Eddie's idea to make him really fat, to have his weight be a thing that would come and go. in the course of the film, that was sort of his secret that he was keeping. It was Eddie's idea, and he just knocked it out of the park. You know, it's interesting to me that of all the movies he's done, The Nutty Professor is what Eddie's most proud of. But I suppose if you look at it, if you look at all that he accomplished in that film, it makes sense.
As Murphy was getting older, he increasingly retired the four-letter profanity of his raw-era stand-up act and occasionally took baby steps into the world of family films.
He started out, you know, with Mulan, and then he had a role in Dr. Dolittle, which did really well. But it was Shrek that would really cement his place as one of the greatest animated artists in the history of film. His role as a donkey, you know, the first Shrek movie, he made a fraction of what Mike Myers made. He was, you know, a couple million. But after the first Shrek came out and people saw how much he added to that movie, he almost kind of made the movie in many ways. In terms of the laughs he did, his salary went up to like 10 million by the time we got to Shrek 2 because his genius was on full display in Shrek. And I would defy anybody to watch the Shrek movies and not admire his incredible ability to make you laugh with just his voice.
Eddie Murphy's voice was always going to light up any animation. It was DreamWorks' blockbuster Shrek to prove just how perfect his motor mouth could be in a kid's film when he's allowed to ad-lib.
We used to sort of throwing a party for 90 minutes.
He was making the movie he wanted to see. And that's why I think that's why now we all want to see it, and why it made such a great material for a movie.
Turning Donkey into something much more than a toy line, Murphy gave Shrek its heart, its soul, and most of its best lines. Several sequels followed, and so did every comedy cartoon sidekick since.
Princess, where are you? It's very spooky in here. I ain't playing no games.
Well, at least we know where the princess is, but where's the
DreamWorks Pictures invites you to a land of fairy tales.
Hey! Oh, no. Dead girl, off the table!
Where are we supposed to put her? The bed's taken.
What? Where an unlikely...
Well, television basically is, you know, sitting in your living room watching somebody else in their living room, you know, and it started getting a little boring to me, so I wanted to do some things on TV, and it would hurt me in features to go back on television, so we wanted to do a different type of television show. That's where the show What's Alan Watching came about, and we just want to do some different things.
How Murphy makes his comeback happens in really an unexpected way, and that is through kids and children's entertainment. Not as a clown, but literally through kids' movies. So you have to remember, the parents of these kids had grown up with Eddie Murphy in the 80s with Saturday Night Live and Beverly Hills Cop, but they'd also seen him in the 90s through all the different scandals and weirdnesses. Their kids, however, had never known anything about Eddie Murphy or experienced him. So as a kid, if they watch Shrek, that is going to be their first impression and interaction with Eddie Murphy. And Shrek is a massive turning point for him.
The comedian Kathy Griffin told a story that she'd gone to a photo call for Shrek. She had a small part in the fourth Shrek movie, and of course we know Eddie Murphy was the very famous donkey. And there was a photo call for everybody who was a voice in the movie, and you know, at the very end, here comes the big star, you know, he sits down and she said to him, "Hey, how you doing?" And he said, "You know, I live in my big house, but I have good days and bad days like everybody else. Sometimes I have trouble sleeping, I worry about things too. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm still fucking Eddie Murphy." And you know, I think Eddie gets that he is an enormous star. He says, without any attempt at kind of modesty, he says, "Look, I'm a funny guy. If you hang around with me, you're gonna laugh." And he's just speaking the truth. He's always owned his abilities and his gift. He never became a jerk like a lot of other celebrities who got so much fame and money at 19.
When Eddie Murphy walked away from stand-up, it wasn't something that happened immediately. The departure was relatively slow and drawn out due to the intricacies of show business and other more lucrative opportunities.
Because that's what my background is in, from Saturday Night Live and doing stand-up comedy and doing multiple characters, you know, that's how I got started.
So Eddie Murphy has said multiple times that he's retired for the most part. And I mean, to be fair, what more can he do? He's amazing, one of the most iconic comics of all time. So I think he's just picking and choosing things that really inspire him. He doesn't have to do anything, so it allows him to be a little bit more focused when something comes along that really does kind of float his boat.
The loss of anonymity caused Murphy incredible frustration when working out new material as a big-name comedian. His recent commercial success made it impossible for him to work on new material without it being published in the newspaper the next day. Before, he could almost anonymously go into a club and riff on a half-prepared premise. The success of Murphy in show business now weighed on every performance.
I don't know how much of my fatherhood, how I incorporated that. I read the script and it was very sweet, and I was able to relate to some of the stuff in it, you know. But first and foremost, it was funny and it was really well written.
He's a genius at what he does. He really is. It was amazing to just watch him work. He's unbelievable. I took away things just watching him and Jamie work, you know. And that was a blessing to be able to work with, one, such great people, and then so talented. They're the best. I got a chance to sit back and learn from the best, which is Jamie Foxx and Eddie Murphy.
He set the bar when he was 19, and then again at 20, and then at 23, and then, you know, he did SNL, then he did all the movies, and now he's, you know, just did Dreamgirls and Norbit. So at every opportunity, he set the bar, and nobody's been able to beat him, ever.
Do I have a tux? Yeah, but I figure everybody else would have tuxes on, so I threw some leather on.
One of show business's most creative minds became suffocated by the close eye of the media. Murphy left comedy for various reasons, one of which was that it was not at all that friendly in the comedy community. In his interview with Jerry Seinfeld, Murphy talks about some of his experiences as an up-and-comer, especially with other big-name acts.
You know, it was interesting watching Jerry Seinfeld, who has a show called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and he actually said when he sat down with Eddie that he thinks he's the greatest comic, you know, of his era, completely, hands down. And those guys, Jerry Seinfeld and Eddie Murphy, used to play a lot of comedy clips together, so they kind of came up together. But there's a real connection and a friendship there, and Jerry Seinfeld has tremendous respect, as do really all comedians, for what Eddie Murphy manages to make look so easy.
It was difficult for Black comedians to find commercial success during the 1970s and 1980s. The town was still doing that one black guy at a time thing, Murphy recalled.
So in the mid-1980s, just Eddie Murphy was everywhere, but it was really interesting because he wasn't overexposed. He just was funny and edgy and cool. So he transcended race. And you have to remember at this time period, there weren't that many black faces in the early 80s. There was not that many black faces on television, and there definitely were not very many black faces on the silver screen. So the fact that he was playing opposite people like Dan Aykroyd, who was a massive comic giant at the time and a household name, it positioned him to be on the same footing, not just money-wise, but icon-wise as well. And he transcended race, which I think was really, really important, especially when you look at in the mid-1980s, The Cosby Show comes out. And the reason I bring this up, because Bill Cosby was one of Eddie Murphy's idols. And The Cosby Show was really the first time that a middle-class, aspirational black family was shown on American television. And in some ways, you could argue that Eddie Murphy's success kind of opened the door for that to happen, because people were used to, by this point, seeing him on television every week, seeing him as a massive celebrity on the silver screen, and treating him equally to these other people that he was in the movies with. And, you know, it was a very powerful thing.
As a young man, Eddie Murphy was entranced by the powerhouse comedians of the time, including Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby. However, Murphy felt they saw him as a threat rather than a mentee as he'd hoped.
The deal? No, not at all. It was hard to get everything set to go, and we're set to go. But Rich and I have wanted to work with each other for a while now, so that was pretty easy to do. Just had to find the right thing. The networks liked it and had high ratings, and I'm excited about that show. I hope they pick it up into a series.
Murphy recalled that when he heard that Pryor was performing at a club and would rush to see his set, he only learned that Pryor had dropped off the lineup. He later learned that Pryor would ask if Murphy had come into the club and would leave if he had. Murphy had similar experiences with Bill Cosby. In his interview with Seinfeld, he opened up about the times that Cosby called Murphy to criticize him for swearing on stage or talking about how much money he had. The criticism from someone he regarded as an idol and role model was a discouraging peek behind the curtain, resulting in disenchantment.
It wasn't really tough at all. It just adjusted to it. It was fun, the experience, but it wasn't like I had difficulties going from live television or from stand-up to doing a film, except for the fact that it's a bit slower doing movies. The process is a lot slower.
I'd be an idiot to try to keep him in check. I mean, when you have that kind of comedic energy and talent, you don't want to keep them in check. All you want to do is create an environment that they're comfortable in and free to just go for it. And that's what I tried to do with Eddie. You know, I just did my job as best I could, and you know, so he didn't have to worry about anything but being funny. And he was fantastic.
A final, more understandable reason that Murphy left comedy was due to the litany of opportunities he had in other realms of entertainment. In '88, he shot Coming to America, which marked him as an obvious film talent in Hollywood.
People have said that the reason Eddie Murphy was and is so successful, he's talented, he's innately talented, but he also is able to appeal to everyone. There's a universality of him that you see with like Jerry Seinfeld, who most people just find funny. Eddie has a great way of observing things and being really sharp about basic things like his mom making him a hamburger when he was a kid, but he does it in such a way that just everyone resonates with and everyone laughs.
In the years following, he did Life with Bernie Mac and Martin Lawrence, The Nutty Professor, Dr. Dolittle, Mulan, and all of the Shrek movies.
When I saw the first Shrek movie, I knew that it would be well received and that it was special. But you don't know that it would turn into all of this.
Now, what about working with Eddie Murphy? I mean, was he as funny on camera as he was on camera?
Oh yeah, definitely. He made me laugh so much.
He simply didn't need comedy anymore and was content to experience stardom in other, less restricting realms.
I'm here tonight to, present, this amazing Career Achievement Award to one of my heroes. I mean, Eddie Murphy is just one of the most talented people. He's been for 30 plus years making us laugh and just doing incredible things, and so to be here with him and for him tonight is really a great honor. Well, I've grown up with him actually, so it's fun. It's fun to be here with them and to have them get these kind of recognitions, for their incredible work. It's great. It's a great night.
Eddie Murphy is one of the most famous comedians in Hollywood today.
Oh, that's wonderful. All this is wonderful. Hey, look, what can I say to that? What am I going to say? Man, I don't want that.
They were going to ask me a question.
I'm ecstatic about all of this. Just to not be on the Who Sucks list is wonderful. So it's all good. Thank you.
Eddie Murphy broke down every single barrier and also precedent. He was one of a kind.
For people born from 2000 and on, Murphy might be seen as the goofy guy who makes family films. To those who were kids during the 2000s, you might have heard him star in animated films such as The Donkey in Shrek and Mushu in Mulan. But he rose to fame through Saturday Night Live, for which he was a regular cast member during the 80s. He was even considered one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time. However, Eddie Murphy is more than a comedian. He's a cultural figure in America.
It's everything I dreamed it would be. And I always thought it would be like a rush to I thought it would always be fun to be in restaurants and have people bother you while you're in a restaurant saying, please, please. I always thought that would be fun. That's not fun. Sometimes you want some time to yourself. I like people saying hi to me and asking for autographs and all that and letting me know that they appreciate my work, but sometimes you just want to be by yourself, be human.
He's not just the greatest African American comedian of his era. He is the greatest comedian of his era.